everybody. Welcome to Lunch and Learn Live. I have got to share this to the group, so bear with me 1 second as I do that. Take a moment, say hello, all of those who are watching. Say hello in the chat box. Tell me how you're doing today. What's happening? I know we are going to talk about supplements because we have had a lot of supplement questions come up. So go ahead and give us a shout out. Say hello. Like I said, I'm just sharing this in the group. So bear with me as I do that for just 1 second. Facebook changed their things. We used to be able to automatically share stuff, and now we cannot. So okay, got that all situated. Welcome, Jen. I know there's a bunch more of you who are watching, so give a shout out. It's just me today. Carissa is she is forest bathing, and you can imagine that she's out in the green, but I am certainly here green with envy because that sounds like a wonderful thing to be doing. So, but I'm glad to have you guys here. We'll talk about a lot. So you guys know last week we talked about Amazon and supplement purchases through Amazon or just body care products and stuff in general on Amazon, and why not to do that because of all the counterfeiting and stuff that goes on. It's certainly a cause for concern. I was just chatting with one of our clients. I was like, did you happen to get that on Amazon? So, because she was having some strange stuff that was happening. We think it was food poisoning though. So anyhow, so that was a really important conversation. And then I do just want to let everybody know so that you are aware, because we have about a week until August, and Premier Research Labs is raising their prices in August. They don't do it very often, so we are super blessed and thankful for that. And the truth is, we want them to remain in business forever. And I know that supplier prices have gone through the roof. I mean, we haven't raised our prices, and we really try not to. We try to keep everything stable for everyone, but y'all know it happens. So with that though, just giving you all a heads up. So if there's stuff that you need to get in, I would recommend getting in any orders before August 1st. For those of you who don't know how to order, if you're a client of ours, you have a PRL account and you should know how to access it. If you don't, you want to reach out to us. If you're not a client of ours, you can create an account, and I just put the information in the chat. It hasn't popped up. There it is. So it is in there as well. But let's go through and answer your questions. So hello to all of you who are watching, and all of you just joined in. Give us a hello. Tell us what your most pressing questions regarding supplementation and such are. And Jen, I see that you're here. So hello, Miss Jen. And I know you posted a question earlier today with regard to our protocol. So you guys, for those of you who are not clients of ours or who are not specifically in any of our wellness programs, we use kinesiology testing in our practice, which is pretty darn awesome, because what it allows me to do is identify exactly what it is that you need in order to really be able to be effective and efficient with your supplements, with your body's needs, deal with things that are happening in your body, whether they've even shown up clinically or not. And so typically, Jen, as you know, having gone through our wellness program, so typically when we start someone in a wellness program, we're going to update that protocol about every month, especially because your body is rapidly changing when you're starting to work with us. From, where you are to where you are within 30 days is completely different. And so we do an update about every 30 days. Thereafter, Jen, it really depends on you and your body and what it is specifically that you need. So for some people, if they're dealing with an infection or they're dealing with other issues that are, rapidly changing, then you do want to make sure that you're getting tested on that monthly basis. If you're like, everything is pretty status quo, you're doing really well, everything feels really good in your body, then anywhere from like, usually I personally go about every 6 to 8 weeks before I retest myself, unless there's something else that's happening. So I always tell our clients, Jen, to feel it out with your body. What does your body say? You know when your regimen has changed because you'll start to feel a little bit differently, right? And just in life in general, we're always exposed to different stressors. Maybe our diet's a little better or a little worse. Maybe, we're exercising, maybe we're not. Maybe we've been exposed to something. Maybe we have higher stress. Maybe we're on vacation and we're totally relaxed and all those other stressors are gone. So your supplement protocols can change on a regular basis given all of those different situations and circumstances. However, when we're looking at things being pretty steady, pretty even, I would say that 6 to 8 week mark is a pretty good. We do have quite a few clients who are in our, who do their testing on a quarterly basis. That's probably at most the longest I would go before retesting would be about every 3 months. So I hope that answers your question. Give me a shout out in the chat box if you have follow-up questions on that. Welcome, Paula, as well. And those of you who are just joining, I see many of you up here in the in our little box that tells us how many are watching. So go ahead and type into the chat box. Tell us a little bit about what your supplement questions are today. So we'll get those answered for you. And Jen, if you were on and you got that answer, just give me a yes, got it. Or if you have a follow-up, go ahead and give me your follow-up question. I think one of the big questions that people always ask are, what are the must-haves or the must-dos? And I think that's important. Let's see. Jen says, I'm making an appointment with you. Nope, Jen, I'm not going to do your assessment until after we talk. So you don't have to worry about sending in a picture right away. But awesome. I look forward to seeing you on my calendar. So what I will say, you guys, is there are some things that are really, I would call mandatory. Like I would never live a day in my life without having these in my arsenal, right? And that is minerals and digestive support. So minerals and digestive support are at the forefront of what we all need in terms of our nutritional needs. So, from Premier Research Labs, some of my favorites are, number one is greens powder, because the greens powder is the simple, easy way to get minerals in. You can throw it in your smoothie, and it's just a regular part of whenever I make a smoothie, I throw the greens powder in it. It's always in my cabinet. So that's one that you can use. If you don't like the taste of greens, the fermented greens caps is a really good substitute. Now imagine like you want to get a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons of those powdered greens into your smoothie to get a good amount. So what does that mean? That means that you've got to fit all of that into capsules. So that means it is a fair amount of capsules. So it's about 5 capsules a day while you're doing that. So that's important. Let me see here. So that's 2 sources. Another one that's my favorite is the pH minerals. And if you get a chance, you guys, if you're in the private Facebook community and you go through the videos, they'll actually see a video there with Dr. Spicer. And I think Carissa and I have talked about it. So he did an experiment with us where he took a couple bottles of, just regular bottled water, okay, from the store, and he poured them into the glasses and hooked them up to a light bulb, essentially. So the wires and the light bulb. And without any of the minerals, obviously you can stick those wires in, light bulb does nothing. When you put the pH minerals in, it lights up that light bulb because that's the minerals doing their job conducting the electricity. And you always want that conducting electricity in your body. So the pH minerals, and I'll type the stuff in for you guys too here. So pH minerals, they are a great source to always put in your water. So you guys, we've talked about filtration systems and we've talked about water, and I have a video I still have to post from when I had mine installed here. I got to find it. So when you have filtered water. You want to have, at the very baseline, maybe a Brita, but next higher level, better off would be at least a reverse osmosis system to really clean and purify your water. Reverse osmosis water, though, has nothing in it, so you have to add those minerals back. So we use the pH minerals to put a drop or two into any kind of water that comes out of the reverse osmosis system. Okay. So that's something that I also use those pH minerals for as well. And then, of course, we've got the calcium magnesium plus, which is excellent. That's really good as long as you have no kidney issues. Or we also use the calcium magnesium powder along with the aloe, because the aloe is really a helpful shuttling delivery mechanism. So the aloe powder with the calcium magnesium powder, I put that into a glass and I drink that down every day. And you guys, managing your body's pH is really important. So if you've never tested your body's pH, you want to grab a roll of pH paper from Premier Research Labs, and you want to test your first morning urine. And ideally, you want your first morning urine to be in that 6.4 to 7.0 range, because when it's in that range, that means that your body's doing good things. Now, it takes a little something to get it into that range. And one of those keys, of course, is minerals. But if you are taking a fair amount of minerals and that pH is not moving, then that means we need to figure out where the hidden underlying infection is within the body, because your pH will not go into range if there is infection that is pregnant. Jen, if you would message me offline, I can assist you. I'm not sure why there's no appointments showing up. Okay. Let's see. So those are minerals. We got the pH minerals, the calcium magnesium plus, or the calcium magnesium powder with aloes and the greens. And then the other thing that I mentioned was digestive support. Guys, if you are past the age of 30, you never, ever, ever want to be without digestive support. If you are under the age of 30, the Premier Research Labs, the pink salt, is sufficient enough to sprinkle on your food. The salt actually stimulates the hydrochloric acid in your stomach, which is what's needed to actually help you break down the food. And by the way, news alert, I guess. So Premier is coming out. I don't know what their exact release date is, but it's coming. It might be this week. It might be next month. It's coming soon, but they've actually created a pink salt complete, which now has some actual trace additional nutrients inside of the pink salt. So they've created it more like a functional food. So it's the salt, plus it's got, vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin C. It's got all those other vitamins in food form mixed into the salt, which I'm super, super duper excited about. I have not tried it yet. But I have seen the label and I know that it is coming. And anybody who has the MTHFR gene mutation or any MTHFR gene issues, which if you do, it's really important that you are not taking any synthetic forms of B vitamins. Okay, that includes folic acid. It must be food-based, non-synthetic forms. So those specific forms are in, because that was the first question I asked them. I said, okay, if we're putting this in, what form of B vitamins is going into the salt? And so it is the safe form. All my kiddos have MTHFR, so it's something that we're pretty aware of here in our family. So your digestive support. So number one, if your stomach is super sensitive or you have stomach issues or you had an injury or trauma somewhere on the center line of the body, then Gastrovan is your best friend. Okay, you definitely want to make sure that you're taking that as a tea before any meal that you eat. Now, digestive enzymes, if you, again, this is one of the most important ones. I even have my children do the digestive support with digestive enzymes because it's important. It's important for that digestion in the small intestine as well. Now, those of us who are over 30, even though I'm 21, those of us who are over 30, the HCl and the activator are what you want to use, again, to stimulate that hydrochloric acid. So really important because we are what it is that we digest. Okay, so depending on your body weight, if you're like under 150 pounds, you would take 1 HCl and 1 activator after every meal. And ideally, 1 to 2 digest before every meal. if you're over 150 pounds, you would probably be taking 2 to 3 of those HCLs and one activator after you eat every meal. And that, you guys, those foundations, the digestive support and the minerals are the foundation to everything. Okay, those are, I would say, the most important supplements. Let's see. Hello, Miss Katie. And Paula's asking about creatine. Yeah, so creatine is really awesome. And Pure Labs has an awesome creatine powder. It doesn't really have any kind of taste at all. I will put it and mix it in water, and I will also mix it into, throw it into my concoction for smoothies. So just FYI. So what do I throw in my smoothies? So in addition, usually to Premier's plant protein, which, by the way, if you are taste sensitive, the Premier plant protein does not have a sweet taste of any sort. It is got a chalky kind of taste. So I do throw in some berries, which covers it up nicely. I usually throw in like some frozen spinach. I like putting the frozen in because it keeps it nice and cold this time of year. But in terms of nutrients, I always do the Premier fermented mushrooms is in our cabinet to go in. The creatine goes in. The galactin goes in. So the creatine for the brain support, for the oxygenation, the fermented mushrooms for that extra immune boost and GI support. I know a lot of you have asked about mushroom tea and mushroom coffee. So the Premier Research Labs fermented mushrooms is excellent for putting into any of your things, even to put it into, we're not big on recommending coffee here. So I'm not going to suggest that you put it in your coffee, but you could put it in your, nice herbal tea if you want, or like I said, directly into your smoothie. The colostrum powder is sometimes very appropriate for people as well, especially if you have GI issues. And we'll talk about athletes in a second, Paula, because the colostrum is also important for athletes because sometimes when we are working out significantly, we may end up, contributing to some gut permeability. And I really like the colostrum and the glutamine to support that gut permeability. So what else goes in my smoothie? The galactin, I said. I will sometimes throw the fermented beets powder in my smoothie, the aloe powder in my smoothie, and the greens powder. I think I covered all of those. And then I will also do some of the magnesium powder as well. So those are some of the things I just typically throw in. They're kind of in our smoothie cabinet. And so they all go in when I'm making a smoothie there. But to go, Paula, to answer your question about the creatine, so the creatine is really good for the use of oxygen throughout the body, which is why it is recommended to take it before you're having a workout because it gives you that extra boost of energy. And I'm super excited. Pure Labs is coming out with they are coming out with molecular hydrogen soon, which is a really big one that I like to recommend as well. So that will be happening coming up. I feel like I'm doing a Pure Labs commercial. This is not my intention, you guys, but I did want to get your questions answered. So the creatine, so in that respect, Paula, it is really good for muscle mass and fitness and exercise. But we can't forget too that because of the way creatine helps with the usage of oxygen, it's really helpful for our cognitive function. So I don't know about you guys, but I like to start my day at the top of my game and maintain at the top of my game. And it means that I want to keep my brain really active and on par. And so that's why it is one of those things that are in my daily routine, the creatine. So I really do like that. So you can use it specifically for working out, but it doesn't have to be for just for that. So, all right, who else has got questions? Go ahead and put them in the chat box. If you're just joining in, we've talked a little bit about the importance of minerals and digestive support, and we just went through and talked about the creatine. So what other questions do you have? We talked about updating protocols. So those of you who are clients and who we develop your supplement regimens for you on a regular basis. So my recommendation is once you're at a sort of, we've dealt with the infections and we dealt with a lot of the stuff that's in need and you're in a good place with your health. My recommendation is every 6 to 8 weeks. We do have some clients who do about a 12-week rotation as well. I wouldn't go much longer than that because your body does change. So, And those of you who are coming to the level 2 retreat, we are going to do some work on how you can, how you're going to start to do some of the kinesiologic testings. We're going to get you some training on that while we're at the level 2 retreat as well, which is in October. Okay, so what else are some of the important constituents? So I think it probably goes without saying the vitamin D. And you guys probably know there's 2 different vitamin Ds that we use. We use the D3 serum, of course, from Premier Research Labs. We use the D3 serum, and we also use the D3K2. We tend to see more use of the D3K2 because it's got the K2 and just going off your next question there, Paula, because of issues, especially like around menopause, or we're concerned about bone loss and things like that. We know that the K2 is also really important for bone. So, but the D3 serum is also excellent. And I do recommend that you use the D3 serum with the limonene. So if you're using the Premier Research Labs D3 serum, it's in like that olive oil base. When you use the limonene oil, it actually emulsifies the fat, because D3 is fat soluble. So that emulsification means that when you take it in, you're getting much more effective and efficient delivery. So we see people's numbers, their D3 numbers go up very quickly using that. So the D3 serum with the limonene, if you've got a lot of really healthy greens and stuff in your diet to get the K2, that's fine. You don't need the K2 necessarily in that supplement form if you're really focusing on those greens, but we do use the D3K2 quite often because it's got that added K2. Okay. Let's see. What about hormone replacement therapy for protective benefits as you go through menopause? So that's a really great question, Paula. So as you know, being one of our clients, right, we don't use any kind of synthetic hormones or anything like that in our practice. And I know it is a big deal. There are a lot of things that are in the functional medicine space these days that are used by a lot of practitioners. And there's a lot of those things that I'm not comfortable using. And the reason being is, first of all, there's some, like, the research is really a mixed bag, right? You will look at some research that says, oh, this is a good thing. And then you've looked at other research that says, oh no, this is detrimental and causes a lot of side effects. And that is a big concern. My overall general philosophy to things is, I do believe that we were ingeniously designed, right? And that the body knows how to heal itself. The body knows what it needs to heal. And sometimes, right, things go astray because we haven't taken care of ourselves. We don't have the right nutrients. Maybe we've got too much toxicity. Maybe we've got too much stress. Maybe we're not sleeping. All of these things happen. And so my approach is always, what can we do to assist the body naturally, okay, without having to use anything synthetic? And every now and again, we might use our suggested progesterone cream for somebody. That does happen. But we have a lot of our clients, they come in and they're having, severe hot flashes and brain fogs, and they're not sleeping through the night, and they're irritable and they're cranky, and they're having all of these crazy menopausal symptoms. And we don't use any of that kind of hormone replacement therapy. And yet they get rid of their hot flashes. They get rid of their irritability. Like, everything shifts for them without that. So knowing that we can do that, and usually pretty quickly, once we're on that right protocol, right, and we're addressing what it is that the body needs, and you guys in the chat box, you can attest to this. But once we get that body into balance, then those things dissipate. So I don't find a need for bringing those things in most of the time. There are rare occasions where I might make a suggestion, but typically that's not the case. And we have a lot of really great food-based hormone balancing things that we can use that are safe, gentle, effective. for the body. Like the Radiant Woman is really effective for helping people with balancing hormones during those menopausal years if things have shifted. We've also got the Fem Balance. So those who are not menopausal but are having imbalances, the Fem Balance is really helpful. We've also got really basic things like the adaptogen. I take adaptogen pretty much on a daily basis. So the adaptogen is an adaptogenic herbal blend. And that, so adaptogens, they help you adapt, right? So they upregulate things that need to be upregulated, downregulate things that need to be downregulated. So the adaptogen is very much one of those go-tos, especially in times of high stress. And I got to tell you, stress is probably the number one thing, diet for sure, but stress and diet and sleep. But sleep, I think, also comes back down to stress and diet if we're really getting down to it, right? So, those two things are really key and pivotal. So I know, if I am expecting that I'm going to have a stressful day or a stressful situation, or because, life, those things happen in life, then I might, take extra of the adaptogen for the day to support my body through that so that I'm not being imbalanced as a result. But I do love that adaptogen. The adrenal support as well, Paula, is a really important thing because a lot of times, a lot of these imbalances can come from a couple different places. The adrenals being one, right? Your GI being your digestive system being another, okay? And then also liver toxicity. And we see that's like a tremendous thing that's happening in our society. Most people are walking around with fatty liver and don't even know, or they've not been diagnosed, but they're working with subpar liver function. And if we're talking about proper hormones and hormone regulation, that liver plays a really big, big deal. So certainly one of the important things to look at. And again, when we start to address all of these different things, that we don't need to bring in, synthetic hormone replacement. It's just not necessary. Let's see what else. There are doctors that have big social. Yeah, one of these days, Paula, I keep saying I'm going to develop a social media presence. It's never reached the top of my priority list. And there's something about making Facebook videos or reels that doesn't so much inspire me. One day, I'll get there. One day. So yeah, I haven't done the big social media thing. One day we'll see. Sometimes there's not enough hours in the day, and you want to make sure you're doing the best. Taking care of you guys is my number one priority over, making social media posts. But we're working on it. We're trying to figure out how to reuse most of the things, right? Reuse most of the things that we can. So Paula, the question that I have in terms of brain health and heart health is, when those other things are in balance, what is the impact of that on brain health and heart health, right? So I'm trying to look at what that whole entire picture is and then go from there. Because I don't think that any mistakes were made in our design. And I'll tell you, I had a tough week last week. My daughter has some impacted wisdom teeth. She's going off to college. And of course, the recommendation is pull the wisdom teeth. I mean, I had my wisdom teeth pulled, and most people have had their wisdom teeth pulled. But the more you know about health, the more you know that everything is there for a purpose and a function, and I had a really hard time with having to take her in to get this done, because there's this huge part of me that feels like this isn't the right thing to do. And, but the truth is that whatever really happened with her wisdom teeth and not having space, because that's usually what happens, is there's not enough space for the wisdom teeth to come in. And I don't believe that we were designed with not enough space. I'll tell you, if you start to look into it, it's really because we eat too much soft food. Our jaws have not properly formed. For some people, it's not enough breastfeeding. My kids were breastfed for years, so that wasn't the issue. But sometimes, eating cooked foods, not eating enough of the raw foods, and all of that impacts the jaw. Mom's health, like when I was younger, did not have the health that I have now. I didn't know any better. And so my daughter maybe would have never had to have her wisdom teeth removed if preemptively back when, I was a teenager, I was eating the right foods and taking care of myself in the right way, but I wasn't, and so just to go back and tell you that, I remember, Paula, I was sitting in the surgeon's office, and he's like, oh yeah, nobody needs their wisdom teeth. And I'm scratching my head and I'm thinking to myself, well, that's one perspective about why were we given the wisdom teeth, and why do some cultures have plenty of space and then others don't. And by the way, if you've got young kids or things like that, and you're concerned about braces, you're concerned about space, you're concerned about they're sleeping with their mouth open, these are a big deal, right? Even for adults. So you want to look at something called, myofunctional therapy. And we're going to have, as soon as we get the podcast launched, I've got a couple of people who are going to come on and talk about these things, because they're really important. I don't think people know that, but even like my kids, they use something called a myomunchie, MYOMUNCHEE. It's a myomunchie. It's a thing that they just chew on that builds up those jaw muscles to assist so that they don't have to have orthodontics later on. They don't have to have their wisdom teeth pulled or things like that. But, better, you do better, and then you move forward, because we can't go back and change the past. But I hope that kind of puts it in perspective, Paula. So it really comes back to, there are things that are common, but are they common because we missed something along the way to be in alignment with what is natural and normal? Okay, let's see. Specific supplements for anxiety. So you guys, I want to be really careful not to have this seem like a quick fix Band-Aid, throw darts at the dartboard to hit the bullseye, because it's not, right? Going back, Jen, to answer the questions about anxiety, some of the most important things for anxiety is sleep, right? Liver health and digestive health. Okay, digestive health probably being at the forefront of that, because there is plenty of research that tells us about how the gut is connected to our brain, right? It's almost like a second brain. And so we really want to make sure that we are addressing those things before we start moving into a whole lot of other things. So when it comes to anxiety, we want to take a look at, are the hormones in balance? Is the GI system balanced? Are we sleeping? Are the adrenals in balance? And those are really important places. And the adaptogen, for example, is really good. So Debbie, usually if I take extra adaptogen, it's 6, although there have been times that I have taken 12. So it's not like you can kind of OD on the adaptogen. So on a regular daily basis, I usually take anywhere from 3 to 6. If I know I've got a very stressful situation, I might take 12. But Jen, the adaptogen can be very helpful for anxiety. And the other one that's really helpful for not just anxiety, but for sleep, that is one of my favorites, is the Tranquinol. So the Tranquinol is really great for that as well. So the Tranquinol is like a neurotransmitter reset. So it is, while we can use it for sleep, it's a terrible name, Tranquinol. While we can use it for sleep, it is that neurotransmitter reset. And so it can be taken during the day. You can take it. There are some people that I suggest that they take it in the morning. Yeah, Paula says, love the Tranquinol. So that's good. Yay, Joanne has all her wisdom teeth, and so does her kids. That's awesome. That is awesome. Yeah, hardly anyone has theirs. So Paula, how do you get your kids? So Paula, it's an ebb and a flow to get my kids to do what they need to do. And I mostly just try to lead by example, and then give them the opportunity to do what's right. I mean, the easiest one right now, when they're younger, they're a lot easier. So my 6-year-old, obviously, she sees us testing you guys all the time. So she sees us running, tests, kinesiologic tests all the time. So she's always like, can I get tested? Can I get tested? And then she makes her little box, and, it's 6. It's super simple and easy. As they get older, sometimes it takes a little more coaxing and cajoling. And I've got, my 13-year-old, he's like, on it all the time. My 18-year-old, sometimes it's like pulling teeth. So it really just runs the gamut. The best thing I can do though is just lead by example. Carla, can the Tranquinol be taken long term? I love it. So you don't need to take the Tranquinol long term. So, ideally, there are things that we probably need to take long term, right? Like none of us is standing outside in the sun for enough hours in the day to get enough vitamin D. So we probably need some vitamin D, right? Digestive support. Well, once we really pass that age of 30, we need that extra digestive fire. So that's kind of like mandatory all the time. And minerals, because our food does not have the minerals that it's supposed to have in it. So we're not getting the minerals in, and then we blow through minerals given the stress and toxicity that we deal with. So that's a really big deal for us. So those are like mandatory things. I know some people are like, take your probiotics every single day. Probiotics are, quite frankly, they're quite expensive. And I'd rather get my probiotics through food rather than taking a probiotic every single day. So getting some real live sauerkraut, for example, is a good way to get your probiotics in. Now, if you have an acute thing going on, or you've taken antibiotics or something of that nature, then maybe you need to take some acute probiotics. I always have a bottle of the Premier probiotic caps in my house. And sometimes I just take a couple just to get additional stuff into the system, but really food first. The Tranquinol is kind of like that too, right? So you want to replenish your body, bring it into balance, and then you don't need it for the long term. Is it going to hurt? No, it's not going to hurt you, but do you need it? You might not necessarily need it anymore. So I'm glad that you're loving it, and I'm glad that you're loving what it does. And it certainly is. The Tranquinol is, like, if there's high stress, adaptogen is always number one on my list, but the Tranquinol is also on that list because it is that reset. But once you're reset, you don't need to take that for the long haul. So, okay, guys, we're certainly over a little bit, and that's fine by me. If there's any other questions, I will make sure to get them answered. Yeah, so Carla, so the Tranquinol is not just helpful with anxiety, but it can be really helpful with sleep. There's a couple things that are really helpful with sleep. Number one, you guys, sleep, okay, is associated with the liver and the gallbladder. And your digestion and your adrenals and all of these things. But one of the things I always translate it to is liver and gallbladder health. So a lot of times, those of you who are taking the gallbladder ND, right, we use the gallbladder ND a lot to support sleep as well. Because it can be very helpful. In Chinese medicine, that, the sleep points are directly on that gallbladder meridian. Okay, so there's a direct relationship there. One of the big things that we are faced with these days, of course, is the blue lights on the screen. And if I didn't want to look fancy, I'd be wearing my hideous looking glasses here. But the blue lights from the screen really do impact us. And so the less blue light that we're exposed to, the better off our sleep will be. And that's why it's important. You've heard Carissa and I talk about on these lunch and learns, getting out first thing in the morning barefoot and, getting a glimpse of that sunrise sun, because those also act as a real good reset for you. So that's really important. And of course, you guys, a lot of the screen time and things like that and our exposure to the blue light. So melatonin can be really helpful as a reset as well. Melatonin is it's really interesting, melatonin, because it's not just helpful for sleep, but it's a really powerful antioxidant. I mean, you guys remember when COVID hit and we put out our protocols for COVID and COVID prevention, and then what happens if you get COVID, melatonin was on that list. The research and science behind melatonin was really awesome. And that is because melatonin is a pretty powerful antioxidant. I have a book somewhere on my desk right now. I think I moved it to my shelf. It's literally an entire book all on melatonin. So melatonin is pretty powerful, including for hormonal balance. Okay, so because I know that was what we were talking about earlier. So, and melatonin too, kind of like Tranquinol, like melatonin. So melatonin helps you to fall asleep, and the Tranquinol helps you to stay asleep if you want to look at it that way. And the gallbladder ND helps you to stay asleep. But those are some big ones that we use in terms of health. The other one that's in terms of sleep, the other one that's important too is the magnesium. So a lot of times we burn through magnesium from all the stress and everything. And magnesium is another one of those that is very calming and allows us to get better sleep. It's one of the benefits of magnesium. And by the way, those of you who have always had the magnesium powder and don't like the magnesium powder, we're finding the magnesium glycinate, which is now in a capsule. So Premier has the magnesium glycinate capsules, and those are just as effective and just as helpful as well, without the taste of the powder. Because I know some people, I don't mind it. I throw it in my smoothie, but I know some people didn't like the taste. So if you don't have a Purell account, I did put the link in the bottom, because you do need a code in order to create an account, because it's only for practitioners, minus Amazon. But you don't want to do that. That's way too risky in terms of what it is that you're getting. All right, you guys, any other questions? Last chance or last call for any other questions that you might have. Debbie, we're so glad to have you here. Yeah, if anything else that you guys are thinking about, that's really important. I will tell you guys, the one thing that came up recently a couple times this weekend is the power of castor oil packs. Okay, now the way we do castor oil packs in our practice is different than what you may have seen, on social media. I know that there's a company that's done a really great social media job on promoting castor oil packs, but the way they use it is not what I found effective as a practitioner. With our energy eyes, as we call them, we can see, different things, and leaving a castor oil pack on your body all day is not the best thing to do. Those packs go off. They go off at about 10 to 15 minutes. So I wouldn't leave a castor oil pack on for more than 15 minutes. And we also don't reuse the flannel. So you want to get the cotton flannel, and then after you use it, organic, of course, after you use that organic cotton flannel, you want to throw that out. You don't want to reuse it. And I know, I think there's a company that promotes washing it, which, I'm all about, reusing things and not wasting and so on and so forth. But now you're washing it. How much toxin is still in that cotton flannel? Because it's oil, it gets caught up in there. And then number two is now we've got some detergent added to the mix. That in of itself too isn't a good thing. And I can tell you that stuff builds up. If any of you have cloth diapered your babies like I have, that stuff builds up. And so you need to really make sure that you are getting all of those byproducts out of the cotton flannel. So we do castor oil packs. We do not reuse the cotton flannel. We throw it away. But if anybody doesn't know how to do castor oil packs and you want some instruction on how to do that, reach out. But we use the Premier Research Labs has the organic castor oil, because you don't ever want to use non-organic castor oil for a detox procedure. The way that they produce oils, sometimes they use a lot of nasty chemicals and solvents. And that's not helpful if you're going for detoxification. And of course, then you need the organic cotton flannel. And then we do use turmeric. So not turmeric that you have in your spice cabinet, because that turmeric is probably not powerful anymore, in the sense that, the power of turmeric comes from those very delicate oils. So exposure to light, heat, and air rancifies it. So we want to keep it really nice and solid. But we use the organic cotton flannel, the organic castor oil, and the turmeric. And you apply that. So if it's, menstrual cramps that you're having, or digestive issues, or constipation, you would apply that. You would put the castor oil on the cotton flannel, open up one capsule of that turmeric, sprinkle that on. I always give it a little rub it to even it all out. And then you'd place that on that abdominal area. And then I never want that to leak through and make a mess, because it is oil. So I usually just use the plastic that it comes in. I have a box that I haven't unpacked yet. This is what it looks like. So I just use this plastic because it's real thick, and I just put that on top of the castor oil, and I'm sorry, on top of the pack. And then of course you want to apply some heat. So then you put a heating pad on top of that, usually a towel in the middle so you don't burn the plastic if your heating pad gets that hot. And then you leave it on for about 15 minutes, not all day. And then you take it out, take it off and throw it away. But that's great for, period cramps, constipation, stomach issues. And you could apply it to your lower GI. You could apply it to your upper GI. Thyroid is another big one. So we use castor oil packs a lot on thyroid, a lot on the adrenal glands, which if you want to know where your adrenal glands, just follow the free floating rib on your back. So that last rib there, follow that free floating rib all the way there. And that's where your adrenal glands are going to be. So right on your back at the edge of that rib. And the other really important place, and we were talking about hormone balance, so this is a really big one for hormone balance too, is on that liver gallbladder. Okay, so liver, gallbladder, they both end in R. That means it's on your right side. So the liver gallbladder packs, you would place them, you would place them right kind of at the bottom of where your bra line is, wrapping around the side. So right in that area on your right side is where you would do the liver gallbladder castor oil packs. And, you want to be consistent with your castor oil packs. I mean, obviously, if you're using it for menstrual cramps, then when you have menstrual cramps, it's fine. But if you're really trying to use it to support the liver and the gallbladder, then you want to do it at least 2-3 times a week consistently for several weeks to really make sure that you're getting the benefit of that. It only takes 15 minutes. And I tell people, leave the supplies on your nightstand, right? And when the alarm goes off, make it, and then, hit the snooze for 15 minutes and relax, and then take it off, jump in, do your shower, and go about your day, so that they're not all that complicated. But the benefits of those castor oil packs are really awesome. Okay, so that's one that came up several times this week. So if you have questions about that, just reach out to us. All right, guys, we are like super over time, but I'm glad that you're all still here with me. If there's any other questions, go ahead and let us know. You can drop them in the message here. We should pick them up. If we don't pick them up within 24 hours, then just ping us in there. Just make sure you tag at South Bay Wellness, and we'll make sure that we'll get it. But with that, everyone, we will see you. Carissa and I will see you next Monday. And just a reminder that the Premier Research Lab stuff does go, they are having a price increase of about 5%. That starts on August 1st. The good news is they are reducing prices on their Vastu products. So if you missed our Vastu workshop, then you definitely want to check the replay on that. But certainly a good time to dive into that as well. But we'll share more about that too. All right, everyone, have a good Monday. Talk to you soon.